We're going to go ahead and first of all we'll save this project. We'll save this as Blurp Midway. And what we're going to do is take a look at kind of how we had things set up on our source objects. Let's go ahead and hide thinking and that. And here we've got our, this is the spheres material and this is the boxes material. Just a couple of procedural materials, got a gradient ramp, and I think this is dots or something, cellular. And right now, these are the only materials that we're using. These are just single standard materials. And in order to access and be able to use, let's get this scrubbed up here. In order to access and use like the outside edge of the fragments, the edge, backside, or any of these settings, these are going to specify different material IDs. And so if we want to be able to use those, we're going to need to put a multi-sub-object material onto our source objects. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We've got this sphere here, and here we've got a material called multi-1 that has this same gradient ramp that appears right there. So we're going to go ahead and apply this on him. And then in his ID2 and ID3, he's got a red and a green material, just a standard color material there. So we'll go ahead and drop this on the sphere source object. And then same thing for the box. We've got his original material there in slot 1, and then in 2 and 3, just a yellow and blue color material. Let's go ahead and drop that. Okay. Now, we're going to come back, let's hide our source objects and show our default layer. And in order for this material to be updated, and in order for us to be able to actually use and see them, because what we'll do, we'll just go ahead and show you, if we try to tell the edge to be ID2 and the backside to be ID3, we'll set that also on the remaining mesh, we can see some of this happening here. And let's go ahead and render this out. The problem is that our object, our original object, is not showing us what we would expect it to. Let's go ahead and set that to 1. That works. I was going to say that sometimes you have to re-pick the objects, but since we're going to go ahead and if you leave it at 0, you're not going to be rendering what you would expect to see. But if you do set it to ID 1, then it's going to force this material to get used. So that all works fine. And let's go ahead and scrub out here and see him form. Okay. And let's take a look at what's going on with this material IDs. On the so for the fragments, what it's telling them is as those fragments form and fly away, let's zoom in, we want the outside, which is kind of the normal outside of the shell here, to use material ID 1. And then whatever's on the edge, the thin edge, to just use ID 2. And whatever's on the backside, like in this fragment's case, it would be, let's see if we can actually maneuver around there. It is what will be on this inside edge right there, the green that we've got there. So this is the edge, this is the backside, and this is the outside, the original kind of normal face. Okay, actually if we turn on our material, show in viewport, we'll be able to see those happen there, or not. Okay, so this is what's happening to our material IDs. We're able to control their material face assignments, whether it's the edge of the fragment or the backside of the fragment, as well as the remaining mesh. Right now it's set to solid, to hollow, and we're able to continue to use the original material on the outside. We can set his own material on the edge, which is right in there, to be ID2, which is corresponding to this one right here, since it's his ID2. And then of course his inside, his backside face, is going to be ID3, so this green guy right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at using a helper along the way. We can go ahead and drop him in here. Just create a dummy, and what we can do is come into the Blurp interface and we can pick that dummy and add him right there. And then what we're going to do is we want to actually use him right in the middle between these two guys to handle how they transition. We can affect this transition path by moving him up there. So we'll go ahead and say up. And now you can see that path has updated, and the tangents come out this way, it flies through the object, and then it's going to approach the target that we've got. So we could take this dummy object that we just created, and we could actually move him. Let's get him out there. And so now you'll notice those fragments take a nice wide detour and fly around. But there's a little more to it than that. We can also use this dummies. We can scale him in order to affect how those particles scale as they fly by. We can drop him down maybe like this, and then what we can do is we can select that dummy, and you'll see, oops, we've got some controls here for helper scale and scale particles. So we're going to we want the particles to actually scale, and we want to use 100% of that helper's scaling. So what will happen is as those particles fly out and fly through, they're actually going to be scaled and squashed as they fly by, and you can kind of see that especially like right in this area with these guys. So they're going to fly, scale according to their helper, and then they're going to fly back and rescale and approach that, assemble that target object. Okay, so that's just another way that we can modify that path. And let's actually take a look. Maybe we can go ahead and with our target object, let's say his intangent, we'll go ahead and drop it down a little bit. And you know what, let's actually go ahead and rotate our dummy. Okay, so these are just some of the controls that you can use to modify Blurp and use him to fragment from one source object to another. Just remember that you want to animate the animation phase from 0 to 1, and if you want it to mix materials, you're going to want to use material mix mode. And if you want to modify the fragments, you can set these different parameters here, either a smooth and radius, smoothing angle somewhere in 10 to 20, and radius of 1 to 2, and a count. Count will just obviously yield different results based on what you set there. And then if you want to modify the path of those fragments, you can just add a helper and place that helper in between the two objects in the object list.